Escaping is exactly what some of our brethren down at Miami wanted to do last year. It's not fun to get beat by Duke. It's not fun to get beat by Middle Tennessee State at home, emphatically. I know it's not fun to get beat by Florida State by 42, but yet all those things happened last year. This is the mood tracker, though. We're talking about what the mood of the fan base is. And I had to play a classic 70s tune for producer Jesse earlier today to explain why I was going the direction I was going with the Miami mood tracker. So looking for a reason to believe is exactly where Miami finds themselves right now. I think it's Rod Stewart, for the record. A reason to believe. That's all they need. I think that's kind of how we would have classified them last year. I think there was a little more enthusiasm, falsely based enthusiasm maybe, as it related to the 2022 season. Maybe, being favored or right up there with being a favorite to win the division. And that's on odds makers, by the way. That's not just your fault blindly. Maybe that was a little aggressive. So here we are now, coming off a 5-7 season. And no, the expectations aren't nearly as high. Where they really shot themselves in the foot last year was they whiffed on the coordinator hires. They know that internally. They whiffed on the coordinator hires. You got to suck it up and deal with it, and Mario did. Kevin Steele moved on. He fired Josh Gaddis and went and hired new coordinators, each side of the ball. Kept his quarterback, which is really important, in Tyler Van Dyke, but also signed the 7th-ranked recruiting class, 7th-ranked portal class. That is what you get when you hire Mario Cristobal. You know you're about to have assassins on the recruiting trail. And that's what they've done. But I think that they will even up it a notch from what you've seen so far if a couple of things happen. Number one, if they win this year, you don't have to win 10 games, but just be way better than you were last year. That'll ease the doubts in a lot of people's minds. And then number two, what will have happened if that occurs is one or hopefully both of these coordinator hires will have validated themselves. And at that point, you can go on the recruiting trail and you can take dudes who know they're going to be there, and you can take a product that's a little more proven and gives a little more confidence that we're headed in the right direction. So they're already recruiting really well. There's probably still a different gear that Miami recruiting can hit that it hasn't hit yet. So that's one of many reasons to believe. That's what they're looking for down there. The fan base needs a reason to believe. It would be foolish also if I did not mention what Florida State's doing right now. See, for a little while, it didn't really matter if you were down in the ACC because other than Clemson, everyone else was down too. Maybe not the case anymore. Maybe your rival up the road has gotten its act together, and all of a sudden you're seeing that Florida State logo being mentioned in college football playoff conversation and certainly ACC championship conversation. They're the favorite to win the conference as we sit here right now. I know you don't think so, but I will suggest from afar here in Nashville, that's a good thing for Miami. Not because you love to see them enjoy an ounce of success, but because if there's any added heat that needs to be placed on your program, that'll do it. That dynamics existed for a long time with various rivals. I mean, think about the Alabama-Auburn rivalry for a little while. Think about what Nick Saban coming to Alabama forced Auburn into doing. And they ended up winning a title out of it and went to play for another one a few years later. Does anyone think that Gene Chizik and then Gus Malzahn, respectively, are winning and then playing for national championships if Alabama's just humming along at 7 wins a year? I don't. And so likewise, down there in the state of Florida, yeah, you've underachieved. That is what it is. You can't change the past. I don't think it'll do anything but help Miami that Florida State is all of a sudden in ascension mode. So, I'm someone who is not necessarily affiliated with either program, but you know my thoughts on the state of Florida. You know my thoughts about how important recruiting in the home state is, as is the case in Texas, as is the case in California, for getting yourself some more balance nationally. Because as long as I can remember through this last decade, yeah, it's been a few teams on top. You've seen the end result. You've seen all that orange and white confetti or that crimson and white confetti or that black and red confetti. I have watched them go into South Florida and poach talent to build the rosters to achieve that. It sure would mean something if they had a little tougher time doing that. And to achieve that, you got to have a Miami that's flying high and in an ideal world, a Florida and a Florida State as well. They start with Miami of Ohio, which is the matchup the country has longed for, by the way. And then they got A&M coming in there in week 2. That was a back-and-forth game last year. They lost it in College Station. And then they got a couple of out-of-conference. Then they get the bye week, and then it's all conference play from that point on. They do get Clemson at home. They do go to Florida State later in the year. Reason to believe, still I look to find a reason to believe. Those are the exact lyrics. That is the exact vibe I get out of Miami right now.